I first met Sheri Salata in early 2022, and I fell in love with her smart, sassy, forthright approach to the world. And I wanted her to be the first guest on Psychedelic Divas because I know she has used these medicines to dig in and do her inner work, to fearlessly face the things that were keeping her small, and to learn new ways to raise her vibration and to operate from the highest level. So let me tell you a little bit about Sheri. She started her personal growth journey in her 20s, wandering the self-help aisles of untold bookstores. And then at 35, she took the ultimate personal growth journey when she began her career with Oprah Winfrey as an entry-level promotions producer. And she ultimately rose to executive producer of The Oprah Winfrey Show and co-president of Harpo Studios and OWN. Her memoir, The Beautiful No, and Other Tales of Trial, Transcendence, and Transformation, is a journey through failure, despair, disappointment, anxiety, until she finally arrived at the life of her dreams, which she began to fully manifest at 56. Today, Sheri lives in full service to the divine feminine. She has created a revolutionary membership community for women who are passionate about expanding the possibilities for their lives, called the Support System. And to help women succeed in business, she co-created the Prosper Network. As she says on her website, she's here to remind us that life is meant to be dazzling. So welcome, Sheri, to Psychedelic Divas. And thank you for being my very first guest.
Carla, what an honor!
No,
What
I
an
am
honor.
honored to have you here.
Oh my goodness gracious. Well, I am thrilled. I am
Thank you.
thrilled to share my journey. Woo!
All right. Well, I want to dive in and I want to talk about your different guided experiences.
Yeah,
But first, I want to ask, how does a good girl from the Midwest decide to access an underground psychedelic guide?
right. Right. Well, and I say this with no judgment of what anybody else does or doesn't do, but I wasn't a drug taker. I wasn't a social drug taker. And in fact, um, it just didn't really do anything for me. I was more of a wine drinker. So that just wasn't my journey. So when things started coming up and crossing my path, like, ayahuasca, do you want to do an ayahuasca journey? And I was like, man, I don't think so. Um, and but in my own growth and development, what I began to learn is just don't say never. Just say, maybe, maybe, because there'll be a moment if the time is right, if it ever is right, where you're going to feel a tug, you're going to feel drawn to it. So when that tug happened for me, oh my gosh, it was like my soul picked me up by the lapels and drug me through the journey lifestyle because it was time.
I love that. I love that. And that's actually who you are. When you get a message, you act on it. You
Yes,
listen.
I do.
I'm that is one thing I know about you. You are an integrator, okay? You listen to the divine and then you act on it. And I think that's obviously been a huge part of your journey.
So true,
Um,
Carla. So true, Carla. And we've been friends now for a few years and we've had very deep, deep, beautiful conversations. So you know that I didn't see this coming. I really didn't see this coming. I will say, I think reading Michael Pollan's book,
mhm.
How to Change Your Mind, because I was a Michael Pollan fan, and because I saw him as not a wackadoo, I saw him as a authentic writer. As I was reading about his experience, as I was like, oh, I might want some of that. And so if I had any prejudices or preconceived notions, they just started to dissolve. Like, that might be really, really interesting. And my goodness, has it been interesting? I I feel I'm saying, like, I'm beginning with the end in mind right here. I feel like my little feeties are perched right on the leading edge of this human experience, and that the expansion that I have brought to my life, brought to my spiritual life, brought to my emotional life, brought to my consciousness is really truly beyond what I could have imagined. And I like the front row. I don't want to be at the back. I like the front row. I like who we're right there. We're right there in terms of we're playing in the unified field
Mm.
while we're in these 3D bodies. And I feel like because of the access to these medicines and these guided journeys, along with technology where we can have a conversation like this, we're not in the same state, and we can talk about things that deeply matter, there truly has never been a more delicious or exciting time to be alive in a human body than right now. And so I'm here for it. I have my popcorn. I'm in the front row. I'm here for it. What else I say?
All right. Well, let's watch the movie then. Okay. So
Yeah.
I'd love to hear about your first experience. So tell us about the man that you worked with in the
Yes.
South.
Right. So, right. There was a man that I worked with. And for me, I always need word of mouth.
Hmm.
And I like it. I'm not really recreational. I want a guided, intentional spiritual experience. So, um, uh, the man in the South was recommended by some other people. Some other people were having experiences. I can't tell you what the medicine was. Now that I've experienced many medicines, I would say it was some sort of mixture of a bunch of different things. And I would say it might be that I had a little too much medicine. And because for about 36 hours there, I was a little bit off my cracker. I could hear myself speaking in a language that I did not understand. And I thought, oh, maybe they're translating it. Maybe they'll tell me what these messages are. It definitely felt like the beginnings of that, oh, there is so much more going on here. That feeling. Whoa, wow. But it was in many ways unintelligible. Like when it was over, I was like, I'm not really sure what just happened.
So I
Um,
actually, this is for those of you who download my safety guide, you'll see that this is actually one of my pet peeves is not telling the person what the medicine is and what the dose is,
yeah,
because how do you go into your next experience and say I want less of that if you don't know what that is or what
yeah,
or how much it was?
yes. It
So
was
I just
a,
want to I want to throw that
yes,
in. To me,
yeah. I
that's
know you
not.
don't you don't like that.
I don't like.
Yeah, you don't like that, and that would not be your recommendation.
Hey, fellow explorers. Thoughtful planning and preparation is the foundation of any successful psychedelic journey. And if something does go wrong, knowing how to navigate that difficult space is essential. That's why I wrote my psychedelic safety guide, including what to do when things go wrong. It's filled with tips and tools for keeping you and your friends as safe as possible. You'll find it at our website, psychedelicdivas.com. Please go get it, read it, and share it. The more we all know, the safer we can keep each other. Thanks.
I actually did that journey twice, and the second time wasn't much better. So that, but it
But you
what's so
did
it,
get I know you got value out of it.
yeah,
So that's
I
that's the
got
part that
value.
so
I
tell us
can't
about that.
totally tell you what it is. It's like it was the value of it was like an entry. I had a few journeys that were kind of like, what was that? Except for the fact that underneath it all, I was like, oh, there's something going on. There's really something going on here. So it would just open me a little bit to, all right, well, let's see what's next. Let's see What happens next? Let's see what medicine appears before me next, what opportunity. And it just kept making me open, shockingly. I think maybe somebody else might have been like, that's enough of that, but not
Well,
me. I
right.
was
I think
like,
a lot of people, if you're 36 hours and I'm not, it's sort
yeah,
of unintelligible, might have been like, and I'm out. Okay.
yeah,
So there was something.
there was something. There was definitely the beginning of that feeling, that beginning to experience what it's like to access different levels of consciousness while you're still in a human 3D body. And it's more powerful and pointed than a beautiful meditation where you're like, where you really are in a transcendent place. I'm a TM meditator. So I consistently am able to find that transcendence for myself. This is like a souped up, more explosive, expansive experience of that.
So you actually went to the right place to start
Yeah,
because that was important to you. I mean, I mean, I don't know that you would have said, "Oh, that's what I want. That's what I'm going for," but
yeah.
that's what the universe handed you, and you were like, "Okay, thank you."
And that's kind of what I say. I don't feel. I saw that one piece because from there I met somebody else who was also recommended, who was doing the medicine of mushrooms, of the mushroom journey. And I that's not even the right word for it. See, I'm not really good with the terms, but
Oh,
yeah, the
well,
mushroom.
yeah,
So
mushroom. Are you talking about? You're talking
so
about psilocybin, but it came in
yeah,
mushroom
yeah.
form. Okay, yes.
So went to the East Coast. I think I was dosed at the hero level, or that big
Okay.
level, and
So
that
nobody's
was
starting small with you.
no, no. It's like once I'm at the buffet, I want food on my plate. So yeah, there is a part of me that's like, I've come all this way. I have these big intentions. Let's go. I had a very profound experience on that journey, and that was a little bit more psychedelic, a little bit more floating down a psychedelic river. But then I had an interesting healing experience, and that's where all this gets really real for me. When I have these really powerful experiences, and on this particular journey, a guy from years and years and years and years and years ago, when I was growing up, that I was a little girl in love with. And I felt very like not good enough because I just thought he was so cool. And he came to me in his 60-year-old body. He came to me in this journey and was just like, what? We had this healing conversation that I could see that in my self-consciousness and my lack of confidence, I had really denied myself what would have been this beautiful young love affair.
Hmm.
And I came out of that thing and I was like, it really happened. We really had this conversation on in an alternate universe. But there we were, of our current selves, having a conversation about our little bitty selves. And he was helping me understand that I have that pattern
Hmm.
of not being able to see the love that's being offered. And I tell you what, I had a boo-hoo for 5 days over that. Like it was so clearing and so powerful. And that was my mushroom journey. So I was like, listen, if I can have clearing experiences like that, where I can heal, where I can expand, where I can have a new kind of awareness, I'm in.
All right. Did you ever reach out to him?
No,
Yeah.
no. And I don't know, maybe he's gonna cross my path. Maybe it did not, I didn't feel called to that.
Hmm.
It just felt like so complete.
Right.
It just felt like so complete. Like you can take that message and that healing into your current life and just have more awareness that we all are a little bit of the walking wounded, and understanding where your wounds are and how they blind you to things. I just was like, wow, that was worth the price of admission on that one.
Awesome. All right. So now you're in. Okay. You're like, there's
Now I'm
something
in.
here. All
I'm
right. So
in.
then what happened?
Well, now I'm Michael Pollan. I'm Sheri Pollan.
That's right.
I have my own going from journey to medicine to medicine
You're
and medicine.
changing your mind left and right. You're
That's right. I'm changing my mind. Well, I do. I must tell you though, I did feel like I was able to give myself more permission, because in many ways, Michael Pollan's a regular guy, and I was just
right.
like, yeah, if Mike can do it, and he's Tracy Pollan's brother, and she's ordinary. She's an ordinary girl like me. Then it must be okay. Let me just think about the order. I think in right around there, I was invited to a special group in Florida with a visiting shaman. And I mean, we had such a fun weekend. It was an ayahuasca San Pedro weekend. And the ayahuasca night, because I'd had that 36-hour experience, that the journey that wouldn't
Right.
end, because
Right.
I'm like, when will this be over? Can I take the thing that makes it stop? They're like, oh, sorry about that. I'm like, oh my God. So I don't think I was dosed right. So the Aya journey for me was not that great. Other people were speaking in tongues and
Hmm.
having, the epiphanies of their lives. And then, the following day was a big San Pedro dance party, which that's just not my thing.
Hmm.
I'm not looking to take stuff recreationally. I'd rather have a glass of wine and some hors d'oeuvres.
You're clear where
Um,
your recreational tools are.
yeah, yeah. And I'll never say never, but it's just not this, it's not my thing. I do like when I have an intention, I'm on a mission, I'm holding the medicine in just a super sacred space for me. That's when I get dazzled. When I'm, you know, in a big group of people and we're all giggling, I was like, I'm not sure this is quite right for me. So my Aya, I haven't returned to Aya. I don't really like to be nauseous, and I did get sick as people were just barfing all over the
Mm.
place. I'm like, I don't know if I love that, but maybe I just haven't had the right experience yet.
Well, it
And
sounds
it,
like you had and I don't want to say negative because purging is a part of the ayahuasca journey,
yeah,
and the body is doing, it's
yes,
releasing things that it doesn't need anymore. But it sounds like you had the sort of downside of the journey without the upside of
yeah,
the full experience. So I can
yes.
imagine that.
And the opportunity for other ayahuasca journeys has been presented, keeps coming up. It just hasn't worked out with my schedule, or if I recently was going to go to another country for a big Aya week,
Hmm.
or I think 10 days.
Right.
And I mean, this is going to sound so crazy, but I could not get a sitter for my dogs. I don't board them in kennels.
No,
I could not get a sitter for my dogs, and so I had to cancel. And then I just say to myself, well, it's just not the right time. We'll we'll
I
sort
would
we'll
I
sort we'll
actually
sort
gonna
that.
agree. Right.
We'll sort that. We'll sort that when we sort that. So some of the most profound journeys I've had, and that was on the West Coast through I would never do this without a personal recommendation from somebody that I trusted who had had an
Hmm.
experience, which is why the recommendations are so important and so powerful. And those three journeys, I went three times over a 2-year, 18-month period. And that was LSD, ketamine, I might always say this wrong, MMDNA, MDNA,
MDMA. You've got me saying
MDMA. I know.
MDMA.
And really what I loved about well, okay, and I'm going to tell you, I had a couple really profound experiences there, but it was super guided by a master. So I just could relax. I was just in totally safe hands. And I, having sessions beforehand via Zoom so I could really kind of clarify my spiritual intention, what I was wanting, and then being actually guided during the journey. So we could elicit information and answers and things. It was pretty great. And the first one, this stopped me in my tracks because what one of the things we had intended and talked about was this mother wound,
Mm-hmm.
this mother wound I had grown up with. Like really, you know, my mom, bless her heart, her capacity did not match my need.
Right.
And so just not feeling loved by her, feeling always criticized, feeling like, not enough for her, and wounded by her in many ways, which there's no doubt she did not intend, but there it is. And so I had talked about it with my guide. Previously, we had talked about that. I'm like, I know that's one of my things.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of my issues with body. It's one of my issues with love, like worthiness, the whole thing. And so we had just started the medicines, and I was early in the journey. And the guide was doing some saging in the room, and I was like, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. And I had this experience. I'm going to see if I can describe it adequately because it just blew me into a million pieces. I had this experience. I heard myself start to chant, all the mamas bring the love, all the mamas bring the love, all the mamas bring the love. And on my matriarchal side and on my patriarchal side, so from each side, my left and my right, I could feel the energy, the living lineage of all the mamas.
Hmm.
The mama, the great grandma, the great great grandmother, the great 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 grandmother, great 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 great. And I could just, all the mamas bring the love, all the mamas bring the love. I could not stop. That went on, you know, not that I was taking notes or anything, but that had to at least have been like 20, 25 minutes. Just kept coming, kept coming, kept coming, kept coming, kept coming. And all of a sudden, boom, it was over. And I was just like laying there in a sweaty, crying heap
Wow.
that this experience was, it's like the thing, it's like, is that what happens on these things? You open yourself up so non-physical can enter and give you the healing experience you need. I mean, I still twirl that around in my mind, Carla.
I mean, so
What do you think?
everybody's experience is going to be different, right? And yours previous to that were very different. And
Yeah.
but there is that moment when the intention is set, when the request is made of the universe. I'm still wounded from this. I'm looking for healing with this, and the universe aligns and shows up. And could you have specifically asked for that and created that and had all the no, you could never have imagined that in a million years.
Oh,
But
no.
that your readiness for that, okay, your capacity to bring
Mm,
that in, that's also part of it, right? So
so cool.
so you were setting the intention for that healing, and you were ready for that healing. And I think
Oh,
that's
God.
why it was so profound.
Yeah, so profound. So profound. And what I loved about those experiences that integration was highly stressed. And the next day we would have a conversation about what would be some items to think about integrating into my real life. And what became true for me is even in my own regular life without medicines, without the journeys, that's how I see things now. And this is probably a self discovery of the last 3 or 4 years that I do the work, I create the expansion, then I raise my life to the level of that expansion. And that is the integration. And, trying to hold that new level, not in perfection, because I'm never perfect, but just, stay close within that new level. And then once I feel really pretty solid, then I'm trying to, I'm expanding again to another level.
And that's why I wanted to have you as my first guest, because again, your integration, that's what's really showing, that's what's making all the difference. So you go, you have this, this experience. It's like, oh, okay, I'm open, I'm aware. I have all these generations of mama love that are flowing through me and are available to me. But then you do the work, the integration work to
Mm,
hold that vibration and not to let it drop back down again. And I've seen you do that over and over again. Like, okay, oh, this is my new level. This is the new vibration. And
right.
to work at holding that's actually the most important thing, because without integration, it's just an experience.
That's the pro tip. That's the pro tip. That's the pro tip. Otherwise it's fleeting. I don't want my life to be just a bunch of fleeting moments where I get a glimpse that there's more to things than meet the eye, and then I go back to my old curmudgeonly ways. I do want to dance in the magic. I want my daily life, just sitting down in my daily life, to be magic. And what helps me hold that perspective and to make integration part of my daily life is knowing that this work makes the magic possible. Otherwise, I'm just like my old self, which is I'm in a good mood, I'm not in a good mood. Things are going well, things aren't going well. I'm feeling good about life, I'm not feeling good. Like just like a leaf on the wind. This is really intentional consciousness and really being excited to have opportunities to expand it.
And you
Yeah,
do that. I know that you've talked about that. You wake up now and you choose the vibration that you want to be in.
yeah,
That's deep integration.
yeah.
That's really
Yes.
powerful.
And it feels really good. I mean, even as I say it though, so much more yet to come. I mean, I feel like I'm just even beginning to just crack the door open a little way. I just have a feeling that, these next, even though the now's so great, these next several years, I just feel like I've just begun to see the limitlessness, and that I can just keep going through the portal and keep going through the portal. In that second same style of journey with those three medicines, on another occasion, I had this other big breakthrough, which is, I've been a student of Abraham Hicks for years and years and years and
Hmm.
years. And I just love the universal laws. I see the truth in it. I see the truth that we're all energy, and that we're we're writing the story. We really are. We're writing the story, and we're creating our own experiences. And there's something that Abraham calls the vortex, which is where all of our desires are just getting stored up and stored up and stored up. And I'm always like, what is that like? I never could really get a real glimpse of that for myself. And in one of those journeys, all of a sudden I'm like, yeah, what is the vortex like? And all of a sudden, this fountain of amazing, just like it was like I was under Niagara Falls, and it was like, whoa, boom, 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 boom. Every delightful, fun, fantastical, material thing, success, fun things, all the wanteds just blowing at me. Like I literally was sitting at the bottom of the falls, and I was like, wow, well, that was so I could just have an experience of, you don't even know how big this life can be. You don't even know. You still are like, you think you've opened up, you're still in the itty bitties. How big this life can be. And that's what I think, Carla, that the journeying path, because I'm certainly not done, the journeying path is kind of accelerates mm, and keeps me as a pioneer in this way of thinking.
Well, again, you are doing the work to expand yourself to receive a message like that, and to also be aware enough to ask that question. What's the vortex like? So to have awareness that there is a vortex, to have done the work, all these years with Abraham Hicks,
Right.
to be understanding the universal laws, and then to be able to have that thought come into your head that says, "Wait, I'd like to actually physically experience that." All of that is indicative of the work that you have done on yourself leading up to this experience,
Yeah.
and then you were able to receive that because you have done that work.
Yes. And I always, when I have a journey and I have an experience, I try to like walk myself through it so I can remember the little moments, the little times I was like, oh my gosh, what? Oh my gosh. Oh, just so I can I can maintain as much wonder from the experience as I can, because that's really what journeying, that feels like the perfect word, how I would describe journeying. The wonder, the wonder of aliveness, the wonder of being human, the wonder of the non-physical and whatever that is, the wonder of multi dimensions, and are we living on different timelines at the same time? I mean, like all of a sudden, I'm like, whoa. I mean, I always say this to the universe: don't scare me too much. You know what my capacity is. Don't scare me too much. Maybe I don't want to see it all, but it is. It my seat, my appetite for wonder just really gets stoked.
Well, and it keeps expanding
Yeah,
because you keep doing the work. And I keep coming back to that, but that's because you keep coming back to that. You're doing your work. You keep telling me I am like my life now, it is divinely downloaded to you.
yeah,
And that's the opening that you've created on either side of these medicines, right? That so
yeah,
like that's the Sheri who showed up, and then the Sheri who came out and grew and expanded and kept doing your work, and then dove back in and went, oh,
right.
okay, it's bigger. Now it's bigger. Oh, I'm bigger. And you came back out and you're like, oh, how do I hold that new vibration?
I know. And you know what? And so people will say to me, what does that look like in your real life? And I'm like, well, how about even where I'm living right now? I didn't put this on a map. This was not on my bingo card. I love it when
No,
people say
no.
that. This
Well,
was not on my
let's jump to that. You were living the beautiful life in
Yeah,
Northern
Napa
California
Valley. I
when I
was in
met
Napa
you.
Valley. Yeah.
Yeah, like you had that was your dream. I mean, it was
Yes.
beautiful.
It was beautiful.
I saw pictures of your garden. It was stunning,
Yes.
you know.
Stunning. And I really had no desire to leave. But at the same time, if you would have said, is this your place? Is this where you're going to be rooted?
Mhm.
I'd be like, I don't know about that. And for a few little reasons, but I liked it enough. And I didn't like any other place better.
Right.
So, I'm from Chicago and I'm living in California, and that weather is super good. So, no impetus, not trying, no nothing. And I tell you this is only because of the expansion from Journeys that this is even possible, that something could even cut through me like this. The day after Thanksgiving, I wake up, I'm, I have a website. So usually somebody on my team will go through the inquiries, when you just cold email a website, they'll go through and say, hey, here's one of your professors from college, or hey, you might want to read this one, and otherwise they take care of people. But I'm like, I'm going to look at that. So I'm looking at it, and someone has sent an email to my website, someone I don't know. But turns out she's a member of my membership group for women, women from all over the world. There she is. And she says, it's a thank you note, really lovely. She goes, if I can ever do anything for you, hey, I just moved to this really cool place. You might want to check it out for a retreat. I had some time on my hands. So there was a little link there. I clicked on the link. Up comes the website. I look at the homepage and I say, oh, I'm supposed to live there. And it never wavered from that. I knew it. I just knew it. I'm supposed to live there.
I mean,
And I was crazy.
it was, and I was like, when you told me about it, I was like, wait, what? You're gonna move to Georgia? And
I
what is
know.
this place? And
I
what
know.
is this magical place? But I have visited you at this magical
Yes.
place,
And you see,
and
it's
it is
magical.
indeed magical.
Yes, it's in the middle of a forest, in the middle, but 20 minutes to a major airport, but in the middle of a forest, in the middle of nowhere, with some of the most interesting people I've ever met in my life. But it's rural in the middle of a forest.
But it
And
allowed that ruralness allowed you to have a new
mm,
man enter your life. So
yes,
tell us about Steve the shaman horse.
Steve the Wonder Horse. Yes, he is my shaman. Shortly after, I'm like, I'm supposed to move there. I made a, I went down for a couple days, said, yep, I'm gonna move here. And it was gonna take me a few months to get that all pulled together. And I got a request to do a podcast. I was doing a podcast from an entrepreneurial friend of mine. We had met in some women's entrepreneurial groups. Dr. Anna Kabecka, who's lovely. So we were chitty chatting about personal growth and development. And when it was over, I'm like, hey, Anna, because I knew she had used to live in Georgia. I said, I'm moving to Georgia. She's like, what? And she goes, where are you moving to? I go, Serenbe, which is this little community. And she goes, oh my God, you can have a horse there. I go, yeah, I can. They do have a stable here. I could have a horse. Now, I had a pony ride when I was in 8th grade. I don't come from that culture. We were not people who had horses. And I'm like, yeah, I could, but, and she goes, you need to buy our horse. And I'm like, well, okay, I got 2 dogs. I don't really think I need a horse. And, I don't know how to ride or anything. And I go, something, I don't know, something inside me said, look at a picture. So she sent me a picture of him. I burst into tears and I said, yep, he's coming to Georgia. So now that's been a whole thing. I
That
have this
this, but this,
big,
y'all, this is how Sheri rolls. Okay, so this is why I bring these stories up.
I know it sounds crazy, but I know. When I know, I know. When I
When
know, I
you
know.
know exactly.
And so what has that meant? Because I'm not even writing yet. We've been in 7 months of groundwork and companionship and learning each other. And I weep I see him every day. He's 2 minutes from my house. I see him every day. We do a weekly, big old fat, like 2 hour groundwork session with a trainer who's, a wisdom keeper, a thought leader. And he and I are just we're synchronizing to each other. We're finding our way. So we almost like we're like in a dance. We're in a dance. And when our heartbeats synchronize, I can feel his impact on my nervous system that was very dysregulated for decades. So I just feel, oh, this is why we're together. And I wonder, what am I doing for you, sir? Besides adoring you and delighting in you and loving you so much. Yeah, and it's very crushy. I go home at night, I'll be sitting on my couch. Wonder if he's thinking about me like I'm thinking about him.
Is Steve thinking about me? I'm sure he is. I'm sure that now that we've invoked him, he's thinking about you right now.
Yes, I just
That's
love him
that
so much.
connection.
Yes, and I
Um,
think he's also an intimacy healer and
yeah,
all the things.
all the things. All right, so let's go back. You had, I think you told me the third time you worked with this person on the West Coast, she added in a new
Oh,
medicine.
yes.
Okay, so you were doing so it was MDMA, LSD, ketamine, and then
Yeah. Yeah, so the slang for it was jaguar. So, and I never, so I'm going to start to say what it is and you can finish it. 5-MeO DMT.
you nailed it. That is what it
Okay.
is, yes.
Okay, so that is
And
and apparently
how did you take it?
I took it I snorted that.
Okay. So,
So
because I just want to talk about
because
that for a
it's
second,
different.
because there's
Yeah,
going to be a difference later when you do the toad experience, which is
yeah,
also 5-MeO DMT, but
yeah,
that is going to be smoked. So
right.
I
That's a
want to
different
call out
thing.
that this time you snorted it as we're
Yeah,
talking about your experience.
yes. Yeah, so that was a snorting thing, and it didn't, nothing was really happening. I'm like, is this it? No, 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 I don't think so. Because my guide said, no, the feeling is quite unmistakable. I'm like, I wonder what she means by that. And all of a sudden it took root. I'm like, oh, but that, oh my gosh, that's like you get to dance with your soul. You get to literally dance with your soul. It's like you and your soul, and you're just dancing and together and in unity with this compassion and this joy. And I just, that was experientially, that was so powerful. Like I just was like, wow. Um, that kind, that kind of love is like rain on the Sahara for me.
Hmm.
It's just, it just fills me and helps me understand how the better way to feel about myself, the capacity I have to feel about myself and my soul and all the dimensions of me. So that was just so beautiful. I
So
mean,
there's a new, that's the new layer of expansion from this journey
yes,
of the capacity to love yourself
yes,
expanded dramatically.
yes. Uh-huh. Yes, and
Wow.
so I mean, I'm living the rewards of it. I'm
Hmm.
living of the rewards of it, and honestly, I feel like I'm still in the baby pool of what's possible. What's possible. So the most recent experience I've had, because it sounds like I'm an old salt, like I'm an old hand at this, and I'm really not. I'm just in the baby pool. But I am a little Sherry Michael Pollinish on this. As I think about it, it's like I've tried a lot of things. So most recently in the Midwest, I was guided to a guide, word of mouth, who does 5-MeO-DMT,
Wait,
but
sorry.
the
Are
toad,
we the toad? So
toad,
which is
toad,
5-MeO DMT.
yeah,
Yes. Yes.
toad, and
Yes.
that is
But this is, I want to be really clear because this is really important. So if you are doing toad, the natural substance
yeah,
from the toad, you never snort that,
okay,
because that has venom in it. And the venom burns off when you smoke it. So you can
got it,
smoke the toad, but you cannot snort the toad. That would not be a
right.
good thing. So what you
Good tip.
snorted came from a lab.
Good tip. Yeah.
Okay, so that's
Good
an important
tip. So that's
distinction.
why it's different. So the synthetic was a snort, and then the real stuff was a smoke, and with a little smoking pipe. Again, not a recreational drug user, so all that stuff is really new to me. Now, I've had that experience twice. I don't know how to describe it other than to say it's part rocket ride, it's part primal, going back into the primordial ooze. It's part hanging out in the unified field, some kind of massive psychic release is happening, but you don't really know what it is. And then next thing you know, it's like you're just thrown on the beach, laying on the floor on your side, going, what the hell just happened? Now, I don't know what else to say about it. I don't know what it is. It was described to me that it's one of those medicines where with ayahuasca, you and the medicine go hand in hand to clean things up. With toad, you leave your body, toad cleans things up, and then you come back. I don't know. I don't know. I almost, words fail me. I don't know exactly what happened, but it was something big. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense. I mean, the experience of smoking 5-MeO is very, very different from snorting it. So I'm just going to talk about that from my personal experience. So I describe smoking it as, it's the rocket ship, right? As you actually you use that word also. You are shot out. It's 0 to 60,000 miles per hour, in a second, right? The medicine hits and you're like, oh wow. And you are moving through the spheres. You are having whatever the experience is, but it's so vast that your body can't, your body is containing it, but your awareness isn't containing it. Your awareness is so, my awareness at least, is so expanded, but it's difficult to bring it back. So people come back and they're like, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how to describe it. Everything you just said, a classic, smoking 5-MeO experience. Like, what was that? And that was, it's too big to explain. Um,
Yeah.
but your body experiences it. Your body is fully there and present, but it's like your limits are being shook. Like, can I
Yeah.
expand this much? Can I?
Yeah. And in each journeying session, I think I went like 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
And after the first time, I always said, no, that's it. And then I had to wait for a little bit and get my nerve up. I went back for a second journey a month later that I'm not sure I would have done that if I hadn't already booked it. I booked it before I even knew what I was getting into because it is it's a decision.
Mm-hmm.
It's a decision
It
because
is.
it's like, whoa, that's big. That is a big thing. So here's how I think I feel about it because I'm not really sure. Something big happened. I'm not sure what it was, and I'm not totally sure of its value yet.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
It makes total sense. And because this podcast is a teaching podcast, I want to talk to that because, I've smoked. I've actually never smoked the toad. I've only smoked synthetic, but my understanding from people who have done both is that they are indistinguishable, although others may have a different experience of that, but that's what I've been told. So the smoking of it is, obviously I also had, the times when I started smoking it with my teacher, Ralph Metzner. He brought it in as a new medicine. We were in a intentional circle. We were going one person at a time. We were, like this is being documented, right? Like how, like what is this dose? Is this, does this work? I mean, it was a working group in his circle of intentional trying out a new medicine. And, that I had that experience. We all had similar experiences. Although some people, when you smoke it, it lasts about 15 minutes. I just also want to say again, because this is a teaching podcast, not everybody goes to the God space. Some people go to a hell realm. And so that's 15 minutes of rocket shipping through some pretty nasty experiences. So it's not always this experience. So the smoking, I've come, and I've done both, but I've come to actually really value the snorting as the more powerful way of using this medicine. Because so here I'm describing for me and my body the smoking of it. We both talked about a rocket ship experience, but it's really hard to bring back the memories, the awareness. Like what was that? What did I get from that? But when you snort it, when you have the experience of snorting it, so that lasts 45 minutes, and it slows everything down. So instead of 0 to 60,000 miles per hour, you're driving a Tesla on whatever the ludicrous mode is, and you're like, wow, I've never driven this fast. This is wow. This is kind of scary but fun. And like, oh, there's my dry cleaner. And oh, well, that's where I get the dog washed. Like, you have memories that you're tucking into the vehicle with you that are part of the experience. Your body's not so blown out that it is much more
Right.
capable of understanding and retaining. And so for me, I've switched from smoking that medicine to snorting it pretty much. I mean, for all those reasons, for me, the value of being able to bring in the messages and then be able to integrate them.
Yeah.
For me, is the more powerful experience.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, I can't really tell you what the value was. I know something big happened. Not sure, I'm not exactly sure what it was. And I don't think I was out in the happy la la land. I think I had a little hellscape too, but it felt like when it was over, like I was releasing stuff.
Hmm.
Like there was stuff being released, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe there was a little bit of a more expanded sense of this, all the things we cannot see, the
Hmm.
layers, the dimensions, this non-physical thing, which is the real thing, even though because of our limited, like I feel like I'm developing one of my other senses so I'm not so limited to just this 3D world.
Hmm. Yeah.
And each one of these has played a part in that. So, yeah. So I wonder what's next. What do you
Well,
think? Do you think I should try something?
what could be next? Um, yeah,
What might be
that's an
next?
excellent question. There are more molecules out there. I want to ask you one more question though about
Yeah,
your internal. We went very,
yeah.
sort of external, connected to source in the universe. But I want to go more granular because I know that you had Dick Schwartz on, who is the founder of the internal family systems therapeutic
Mm-hmm.
model, and Dick talks about that we all have multiple parts inside of us. And
Mm,
I know you mentioned on your third journey with the woman in on the West Coast that you that was part of your intention, was to have all of your parts come forward and speak up and talk in together instead of each
mm-hmm.
part kind of having their own thing. Can you tell us about that experience? What was that like to have your guides talk to your parts?
Honestly, I don't totally remember. I'm sure if I had that experience, I'm sure I talked to you about it, my psychedelic friend. I don't totally remember. Sometimes with like internal families, and Dick Schwartz is absolutely fantastic, and internal family systems, so fantastic. I don't know, Carla, whether or not my parts don't feel so separate anymore.
Hmm.
So now it's like I almost I can't separate them
Right.
because I'm like, is anybody hanging out there? I'm not sure there is anybody hanging out there anymore. Is there
Well,
anybody
that
else
might
hanging out
actually
there?
speak to the fact that you so fully integrated that experience
It
that
might
once we
be.
integrate something like that, we don't like we have no
It might
awareness
be.
anymore of it, of that place of separateness.
It might be. The work that's kind of risen to the surface right now is I have like 20/20 vision on my triggers. Like when something comes up and I feel that sense of annoyance,
Hmm.
it's almost so magnified that I cannot miss it. And I'm like, what's this about?
Yeah.
What is this about? Or I feel something just happened today. Someone sent an email, and it's like that thing. I know I'm so careful when I put words on an email because it's so easy to misinterpret it. But I
Of
was
course.
like, oh gosh, this is kind of insulting. And I could feel like this rush happened within me. Insulting. Ah. And then I had that quick little jury trial in my head of, well, here's what's going to happen to you. Did you and then I just was like, gosh, look at that. Look at how, do you really feel like feeling, do you feel like feeling insulted today? I'm like, no. Are you a person who wants to be easily insulted? Are you, no, I'm not that porous. All right. So that's just an old pattern. So maybe you can just be like, nah. But that's my current work is triggers are coming up in big, huge ways. I get the opportunity to have that little dialogue with myself with tenderness and just be like, yeah, that doesn't even feel like you anymore. Who is that having that big reaction? You don't really care. Send the email. I don't care. Like water over a rock. And so that's currently what's happening.
So that is it. Again, you modeling integration, because in as we exchanged some emails here around this podcast, you said that one of the things that that you feel like you're operating at the highest level, and that
Yeah.
snags are just minor things to work through, and that you're turning it all over to your guides. They know better. Total
Yeah.
surrender.
Well, that is the big thing because I think that I was faking myself out a little bit. That yes, yes, surrender, surrender, but I'll take it from here. A lot of there's that beautiful scene in that movie, What About Bob with Richard Dreyfuss. I'll take it from here. I'll take it from here. He wanted to teach his own son how to dive. I just love that moment. And that's how I think that so many of us on this personal development journey, this transformational path that we're all walking in various ways together. It's like, yes, surrender, surrender to the universe. The divine feminine has me. And yet you don't open your hands. You don't I really want to be like, you handle the details. I'm staying out of it. I wouldn't have picked Georgia. I didn't know I was going to have a horse. And it's getting more interesting by the minute. I'm staying out of it, universe. You know how I want to feel. You know the experiences I want to have. You take care of it. And I will be the audience, clapping my hands, giving you a standing ovation for doing such a great job.
I think that is the perfect place to wrap this, because
Yes.
you have stuck the landing on this, Miss Sheri. Will you please tell our audience all the delightful ways that they can find you, follow you,
Yes.
engage with you?
Yes. Well, anything I'm doing is always going to be on my website, and that is sherrysalata.com. And I would say the two things that are really ringing my bell and that I've been working really deeply on for several years, where I talk about these very things: the support system, my membership group for women all over the world, and my new venture, the Prosper Network, where women who run their own businesses. I think that's how we're all going to live and work.
Mm-hmm.
We are going to all be our own little LLCs, liberated from the patriarchal construct, running our own little divine feminine businesses, deciding how we are going to divvy up our time to various clients, and offering our skills for an exchange of money and other things, and setting our own schedules, owning our own lives. That's what I think is going to happen. So the Prosper Network really is about how do we help each other be successful. So those are my things these days.
And that is the feminine, which is why I'm doing this podcast, that because there's a lot of way to look at psychedelics, but what's important to me is that we spend some time rebalancing, the heavy masculine patriarchal, society that we all grew up with, that we bring in, like for you, it's the communal, right?
Yeah,
And so that you're serving them, they're serving you. It's like you gave that perfect example of someone in your community told you about Cerebi, and now here you are. That's the reciprocity that is available from the feminine side. And it doesn't, I'm not talking about gender, I'm talking about our own innate feminine traits.
yeah.
And you embody those so beautifully. So thank you. Thank you so much for being
Thank you,
part of
Miss
this.
Carla.
It's
Thank you.
just,
And thank you for the honor. Thank you for the honor of being your launch guest.
my launch guest. Well,
And
I knew how much fun it would be.
what a
So
service. What a
why
great
not start with
service.
fun? All right. Thank you, Miss Sheri. And please, hugs to Steve. Oh,
Yes.
and the pups, of course.
And the pups, Dolly and Buzz. Bye, everybody.
Bye.